Hey everybody, it's Jason back at you with another exciting video. Well, Andeli has sent me this little tiny little lunchbox size flux core welding machine that also does stick and lift TIG. Will it be the newest addition to my truck? Stick around and find out. So it's the end of the day. I'm dirty, I'm tired, but I got back and there was this box sitting here waiting on me. So I couldn't wait to open it up and check it out. One of the first things that stood out to me was its size. I mean, if you compare it to the titanium, I mean, look at how incredibly small it is. It's about the same length, but it's a little bit shorter. It only weighs 9 pounds. And one of the things right away that I wish it had was the shoulder strap, because there's been several times when I've had to climb a ladder with this over my shoulder. So maybe I can figure out how to put a shoulder strap on it. And then the second thing I noticed was the gun. See how this is on here, and you can't take it out. You know, it's always going to be there. This one comes out. I'm going to show that to you here in a second. But so I quickly pulled it out of the box, unwrapped it, and I put it through its paces. It is 110 or 220. It comes with one of these little adapters, so it can run on 220. This is the gun that it comes with. This is a nice 10-foot lead, and it's, you know, your standard Tweco fittings, so you can get those at your welding store or online or from Andeli if you want. And it came with 030, 035, and 040 tips, which is kind of weird. I'll get to that in just a minute. It came with an instruction book, 6-foot ground lead. Now they do use the DENS 15 small connectors, which is okay, I guess, for its size. And then it came with a stick lead, and it's 10 feet also, and the MIG gun is 10 feet. I'm not real super impressed with the rod holder. It's not copper on both sides, and something tells me that this is not real copper, or not solid copper, just copper coated. But it doesn't even have the grooves in there to like hold your rod in certain positions. But it does have a really good spring in it, so I was kind of impressed with that. So back to these fittings, the 030, 035, and 040. Let me tell you why I had a problem with that. So this thing says MIG-135 Plus, all right, and all over it, it says MIG. So I looked on the back. There's no place to plug in gas. It's not a MIG. Don't get confused. It is flux core only. And we'll get to that more in just a minute. But why did they send a 040 tip? I mean, maybe they make flux core in 040, but I'm not aware of it. The drive rollers are only 035 and 030. The drive roller you can access right here, this little door. That's where it is, and it did come with a spool of wire, and I'm going to show you some welding results. I didn't really like their wire, so I took that out and I put in my favorite weld coat wire, and it made a huge difference. With its size, I had a hard time getting my hands in here to feed the wire through. I would have gladly sacrificed a little bit of size difference to have a top load like the titanium, because then you can get your hands in there on the sides. Everything's accessible. And like the titanium has the button that you can hit to feed the wire really fast. This one does also. It's right here, this little red button. If you hold that down, after about 3 seconds, it'll start shooting out there at full speed, and it will shut off the circuit going to it. But let me get this turned on and show you a couple of things. Okay, so this right here is where you plug in your ground clamp, and there's a little picture of a clamp. So this is flux core only, so you're gonna run it with electrode negative. So your gun is gonna plug into here, and then the wire comes through there and then into your gun, and this is on the negative side. Your stick holder for arc welding goes in right here, and that's on negative. And this little pin right here is the contact switch that goes to the MIG gun or the flux core gun. But again, you're always going to have, no matter what you're doing here, you're always going to have your ground clamp here. And it also does lift TIG. It doesn't come with the TIG that you need, and it doesn't have a way to hook up gas. So I'm going to put a link in the description for a TIG rig that'll work with this. So you can do TIG on steel and stainless steel only, because this is a DC machine. You can use flux core on steel only. You can also do stick on stainless steel if you get the stainless steel rods. I didn't have a chance to test that, but let me turn this on and show you what. So you lift this little lid up and you switch it on. Let me find it. Now I don't know if you can hear that, but it is a pretty noisy fan. Let me take off my microphone. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's pretty noisy fan, but it seems to be working fine. So right here they have they claim it to be a synergic or a synergy manual stick or TIG, and you flip through those by hitting this button. There you're on manual, there you're on flux core, and there you're on TIG. One thing that I noticed about the synergic settings, you can adjust this. See, and as you increase your voltage, your wire speed goes up. But watch this. You can turn, let's put it on 18 volts, 123. Well, still on the synergic setting, you can change your voltage and go down. And then if you go back over here, it's increasing your voltage from that. That's not really synergic. That's just having the two tied together. A fully synergic machine will ask you what diameter wire you're using, and what the thickness of your material is, and it will adjust everything for you. That's not quite what this is doing. On this red button, see right here where it says 030? Hit it again, 035 and 040. But again, personally, I've never seen or used 040 flux core wire. They may make it, I don't know, but I don't use it. So on your drive wheel, you got to flip the wheel over based on if you're doing 030 wire or 035 wire. Now this is pretty cool. I've never seen this on a little flux core machine like this. If you hold this button down for 3 seconds, it'll flash 2T, or hit it again, it'll go over to 4T. Or you go back to 2T, get it where you want it, hold it down again till it stops flashing. 2T and 4T, if you're doing 2T, you pull the trigger and you weld and you let go and it's done. 4T, if you're gonna be doing a long weld and you don't want to hold it, you pull the trigger and then you can let go and it'll keep on welding until you pull the trigger again and let go, and then it quits. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why it's called 4T. 2T is on and off, so 1, 2. But I have never seen a 2T and 4T setting on a little flux core machine, so I was very impressed with that. And again, this red button right here, if you hold that down for 3 seconds, it'll speed up the drive wheel when you're loading a new spool of wire. Inside the cover, every other manufacturer puts a suggested settings chart under the cover. It doesn't have one in the cover, but they do have one in the book. So you may want to print this out, cut it out, get some clear packing tape and tape it to the inside door so that you've got it handy. And it is in millimeters, but I want to show you this. So I was doing some 14 gauge steel, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute, and it's 0.074. So it only had a 0.071, 1.8 millimeters. So 0.074 is probably 1.9 or 1.85. They suggested 15.5 volts, and I was using 030 wire, so they wanted 99 inches per minute. Yeah, that wasn't happening. It kept pushing the gun back. I had to increase the voltage to 16, and I had the inches per minute set at 40, 16 and 40, and it ran beautifully. I'm going to show you these welds that I did here in just a minute. But the book, of course, it comes, it tells you all about, all of your settings and everything. So don't get all nervous about that. It's actually very well explained. As far as flux core welding, I don't think I'll ever use it in the synergic mode because it's not really doing true synergy. So I'm just going to keep it on manual. And I had it on 16, and I had the wire feed turned all the way down to 40. Yeah, now I can't get it. I can't get it there. Maybe it was 60. I'll have to look again. But I know I was on 16 volts, and I was either at 40 or 60. I can't remember. I'll have to Have to test it out again. But I want to show you, so I've got it plugged into 110 right now, and on the voltage it'll go all the way down to 15, and it will go all the way up to 20 volts. And then the wire speed will go all the way up to 340. If you're burning 20 at 340, holy cow, that's quick. Now it dropped back down to 135 because I think probably if I had it plugged into 220, it'll let you get those higher settings. But anyway, the duty cycle for it was pretty impressive. At the setting that I had it on there, it was still at 60% duty cycle. And I mean, if I'm doing flux core, as you know from my channel, majority of my work is handrails. So I'm only doing like an inch at a time, and then I stop, clean it up, do an inch over here, stop, clean it up, talk, step back and look at it, get back on it. 60%, even if it was 30%, I'd still be fine with that. So let's talk about stick welding. So even boasting a 58 volt open circuit, it still would not burn a 6010 rod. Not in a 3/32. I couldn't get it to run any 3/32. It probably will on 220. I'll give it that because I didn't have it plugged into 220. I just tested it on 110, but I have no doubt that on 220 it will burn 3/32 easily. But 110 powered, it didn't have enough power to keep a 7018 lit. And it will probably run 6011 because most machines, if it won't do a 6010, it'll do 6011. But this machine will not do a 6010, just won't keep it lit. It'll do 6013. It did 1/16 6013 just fine. And again, if I had it plugged into 220, I have no doubt that those values would be a little bit higher. But on 110, 20 is your lowest, and it will go up to 135. And I'm excited with this doing a low voltage stick welding because I often get called out to do some stainless steel work in like nursing homes, kitchens, commercial kitchens, stuff like that. And I usually use a stainless steel 309L rod, and it's usually only running about 40 to 45 amps, maybe up to like 60. So I'm excited to use that on that. The TIG, that's going to be, since it's a DC machine, you can use TIG. You'll have to get an Argon bottle, and you're going to have to get your TIG rig. But again, in the description, I'm going to put a link to one that I would use, or that I do use anyway. And you would hit that over there on the TIG, and you just simply set your amps for that. Your ground clamp is always going to be on the positive, and your TIG would plug into the negative. If you're stick welding, your rod holder will go into the negative, and if you're flux core welding, it'll go into here, and then the wire feeds through here into your gun. Um, but so I'm I'm very impressed with the size and the weight. Again, it only weighs 9 pounds. I like that you can select what size wire you're using, and I really like the 2T and 4T settings. Again, I've never ever seen that on a budget flux core welding machine, so that's pretty handy. I like that a lot. I want to show you some of the welds that I was just doing with the flux core. Um, this was some testing that I was doing while I was trying to figure out, what settings I wanted. But I just verified because I wrote it down, and it was 16 volts and 40 inches per minute on the wire feed speed. But this is 16 volts at 40. This is doing the little circles. And if you go to my other video about um, flux core techniques, this was my little circles. And then this one, I started on this end, and I was doing the whip and pause. But this is using the wire that they sent. And this is 14 gauge onto 14 gauge, and 16 volts at 40 inches per minute, and it did pretty good. This is 1 inch, and this is 1 inch by 3 inch, which are my main two material sizes that I use on handrails, and that's a pretty good looking weld. I am real impressed with its flux core capabilities, no doubt. And again, I like the size of the machine. I like its lightweight, um, and I think on my next handrail job, I'm going to bring it along and do the whole thing with just that machine. Okay, so what are my overall thoughts on it? I like the fact that it's 110 or 220, and if you've been following my channel, uh, a majority of what I talk about is I'm trying to help the beginner welder or the budget conscious welder, and this only rings up at about 130 bucks. And look at the size. I mean, I read some reviews about it on Amazon. One guy called it a suitcase welder, and this is a lunchbox welder. It only weighs 9 pounds. I mean, look at how light it is. I like the fact that it can run off the 220, and that it came with the adapter. That is awesome. The MIG gun is a nice size gun. It's your standard Tweco with the little clip here to hang it on your pocket or ladder or whatever. It uses standard Tweco parts that you can get anywhere. You can get them anywhere from Lowe's to your local welding supply. But it's a nice gun. It's a little bit smaller than the titanium gun, but I like this angle. I like the angle that it has on it because it lets you get up into some tight corners. So I have no complaints about the gun whatsoever. I really like the fact that you can unplug it from the machine. That's kind of cool. I don't know how often I will do it, because in order to do it, you got to back the wire back out. But you know, again, it's one of those things, kind of like the 220. I don't know if I'll ever use it, but it's nice to know that I have that option. Um, the welds that it made, um, I'm super impressed with it. It made some really nice flux core welds. I didn't show you this where I was trying to test some stick. Again, it had some problems with the stick. On 110, it would only do 16th of an inch, or 116 rods. It'll it won't do 60-10, but it'll do 60-11. And I have no doubt that if it was plugged into 220, that it would do 330 seconds with no problem. But even on 110, for those times that I get called to go do, um, um, stainless steel job inside a kitchen, it's nice to just walk in with this and a couple of rods in your hand. But so my overall thoughts is I like it. I like it a lot. It's lightweight. It's very capable. It's only $135. Um, and again, this says MIG-135, but it's not MIG. It's Flux only, Flux core only, and it will go up to 135 amps on Flux core. I mean, on a stick and on DC TIG. But would I recommend it? Yes. Yes, absolutely, I would. This is a great little machine, despite the few little quirks that I pointed out. That might just be me in my years of experience. Um, not liking one thing or another. It's just the way I operate. But would I recommend it to somebody? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's $135 on Amazon, and if you look in the description, I'll leave you a link to it so that you can go check it out. And I will also leave a link to the Tig Torch that you need to operate this. And again, you will have to go buy a tank of argon and a regulator, but those are cheap. And if I can remember, I'll even put a link to the regulator that I would use also. But when I go on location to do TIG, I have a little tank. I think it's called a 20, and it's only this big, and it's got the regulator on there. That's all you need. But it's not too often that I do TIG on location, um, because of the wind. And again, 90% of my work is handrails. And when I'm going to build a handrail, or if I get called out to repair a handrail, I always bring a flux core. That's I'm working on a handrail right now, and I was out there the whole day using just flux core. And but again, that's Andeli. It's it's a great little machine. I highly recommend it for somebody that's budget conscious and wants to get into welding. I'm not getting into welding. I am a welder. I'm a professional welder, and I would still. This has a new home in my truck, and I'm going to be taking this on jobs with me. I'm very impressed with it. But anyway, again, I'm Jason. Thanks for watching, and have a great weekend. Please subscribe. Subscribe.